My vision with this podcast is to make it a melting point of great ideas, great discussions, questions being answered, self reflection happening, and so much more. Welcome to the first episode of Wish I Knew That Before. My name is Amit Pandey, and here we bring on guests from different walks of life to discuss ideas, answer questions that can directly help a young adult navigate the journey of life a bit better. So, this is the intro zero, or the episode zero, I should say. And before we actually get into the journey of learning through the stories of different guests, their thoughts, their visions, their ideas, I thought, let me take this episode or this moment to actually introduce myself. Who is Amit Pandey? Why should you even bother to listen to him? What is the why of this channel? What is the vision? What are you guys gonna be getting out of this channel? What's in store? The values, with a few disclaimers. So starting with a few disclaimers. I wanted to put out these disclaimers because I wanted all the audience or the listeners of the show to actually be on the same page with me and set the expectations right. The first one is I would never ever pose as something that I'm not. So on the show, you'll always get the real version of me. And that's a promise. And I promise that because I have come across a lot of influencers, a lot of people on social media that they claim that they are doing something, but in reality, they are just faking. And that pisses me off. That pisses me off a lot. Because here's the thing. It creates a lot of unnecessary pressure on someone else's life. Because people who are consuming their content, they'll think, oh, their life is all sorted. They are getting up at 5 a.m., doing this productivity ritual, doing this, doing that. I'm not even getting up from my bed on time. But here's the thing. I've heard this wonderful message by Jay Shetty that a lot of people, they post their highlights of their life. Not a lot of them, they show the real version behind the scenes. I promise to you guys that if I'm proposing an idea around productivity, around life lesson, around relationship, around this, around that, I just want to say, I'll make sure that I also tell you that here's where I am struggling with this idea. Here's what I have tried. Here's what worked for me. Here's what didn't work for me. And that's what it is, guys. I won't be putting that, oh, I'm a 5 a.m. productivity geek and not get up on time and struggle, and I'm not posting that because I want to create this persona of, oh, here's the successful, wonderful Amit. No, not at all. I don't want to do that. It pisses me off in other people, so I won't do it on this show. So that's the first disclaimer. I won't be acting as someone that I am not. First point. Disclaimer number 2. I have my personal reasons for starting this podcast. I call them as my self-care reasons. You see, I call them as self-care because previously I used to call them as selfish reasons. I call them self-care now because 2 weeks back I was having this wonderful conversation. I was picking the brain of a wonderful new friend of mine called RJ Misha, or Mast Misha, as people know her. She's an RJ in Delhi. And I was picking her brain on how to interview guests better. During our conversation, the topic came, why am I starting this podcast? I told her that one of the biggest reasons that I'm starting this podcast because I really feel the pain of young adult, because I feel if someone would have just told me these informations that I'm getting exposed to now, my life would have gone into a whole new direction. And I really want to be a great facilitator of deep conversation and expose them to that this is possible, this is out there, you guys should know about it. I really care about India's education system, and we'll talk more about it in my why and my vision. I care about those things, but I also care about, and I know the importance, I'm a sucker for deep conversations. And I know the importance of how transformative it can be when you are actually having those deep conversations, not the fluff talk. Small talk, It's good. It has its own place. I understand the importance of it. But the real connection, the real transformation happens when you learn about someone deeply through their story, through their life journey. So I'm a sucker for deep conversation. I really appreciate and know the value of having high value people in my life. I really feel that the quote that Jim Rohn a motivational speaker, says, you are the average of 5 people that you hang out with. I think it's not just that. It's not just the average of 5 people, but the more 5 people that those 5 people know. So I really feel it's super important to have people in your life that are doing some great thing, who have a different perspective to life, and learn from them. Tap into their network and see how your life and new opportunities can really unveil in your life. So I learned so much from great people, great thought leaders, through their books, through their videos, through their podcast. Won't it be great to actually sit down with them and actually pick their brain, like right now I'm doing with you, Misha? She's like, yeah, so why do you call it selfish? Because selfish reasons can most of the times hurt someone else. But here, I feel, or I see it as self-care reason that you're starting this podcast, because you don't have any intention to hurt anyone else. You are just doing because there are personal reasons, you're interested in deep conversations and learning from high value people, and then you're projecting this to the people out there for their benefit. So I don't see it as selfish. I thought, makes sense. It's not selfish, it's self-care reason of starting this podcast. I definitely am not a Mother Teresa to not get anything out of it. I have my personal reasons, and that's why starting this podcast as well, because I know the importance of deep conversations and wonderful people to have them in my life. All right. So those are the disclaimers that I really wanted to put out. And next up is going to be why, vision, and values. So starting with the why of this show. Why am I starting this podcast? A bit of introduction about myself with a bit of bragging. Yeah. So I'm a 26-year-old research scientist. Right now I'm working in a company called Thales. I graduated from this wonderful University of Southern California in Los Angeles, United States. I came to United States back in 2016, and past 3.5 years, my dear friends, have been epically transformative. I don't know if epically is a word, but I'm using it over here. But in these short span of 3.5 years, I really feel that I have done so much more in my life, so much more consciously. I stress on the word consciously because I really feel the rest 22 years of my life, I really lived it unconsciously. In these past 3.5 years, I got the chance to do so many things when it let's say it comes to meeting a lot of new people who actually think differently, listening to a lot of podcasts, watching a lot of creative thoughtful videos, learning from so many thought leaders, having a lot of reflective moments, building my identity around being a learner. Got a chance to join a Bollywood dance team called Garv Dance. Shout out to my Garv Dance people. Got heavily involved with Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a public speaking club. It's internationally, it's everywhere. You guys should definitely check out Toastmasters if you want to develop your public speaking skills. Successfully led 2 Toastmasters club as a president. Got multiple awards at area level in international speech contests. So a lot of speaking happened. A lot of leadership skill training, I should say, that happened for me. Read so many books, non-fiction. Never read a non-fiction, I think, in my, consciously never read a non-fiction unless I was forced to, but started to read so many non-fiction books in personal development genre, and so many other amazing things happen where I pretty much seek discomfort, as the S-Theory guys would put up, in a lot of areas of my life. But that wasn't the case for the rest 22 years. I say I lived it very unconsciously because a lot of my negative beliefs and values really took root in those 22 years without me even noticing or questioning them, that why is this happening to me. Almost 16 to 17 years of my life, I was born and brought up in a slum of Mumbai. There's this beautiful quote that I mentioned previously by Jim Rohn, that you become the average of 5 people that you hang out with. I'm not saying that growing up in slums is bad or people over there are all miserable. No, I'm not saying all of those things. What I'm saying is, growing up over there with a bunch of my friends, we all had our realities very limited, because our parents as well, for them as well, it was all about survival. From right from our childhood, we were taught that good marks equals to good life, because that's what the best our parents knew at that time. And when good marks equals to good life, then what else is there? Just to chill, play, and just get into trouble. I think that's what happened with me. My zip code really shaped my reality. Now, when I look back at my life in those 16, 17 years, I really feel there were so many points that a lot of my negative beliefs and values that I was operating till today really formed at that time, and I didn't even know, oh, that's happening. I really feel at that time I did not have enough exposure, enough intelligence, or the environment to actually question those beliefs and values forming at that time. And they really took deep roots. As I said, like a good marks equals to good life. So I started to focus more on study rather than questioning life concepts. And I struggled at so many different areas of my life. I struggled at my relationships. I became very distant from my family. They would always say, why don't you talk to us? Or why are you always in your own zone? I struggled with my girlfriend or my friends. But most importantly, I struggled with my own self. And at that time, I didn't question it a lot. At that time, it was like, oh, it's reality. I cannot do anything about it. The thought that comes to my mind is, I was very insecure about my own self. At that time, I couldn't frame it like this, that I was insecure. I did not have that intelligence. But now I can. And I really feel I was very insecure about my own self. Like I'm 5'3", I'm short. And at that time, I wasn't good at athletics. So I would always see girls being wooed by guys who were muscular and fit and they could run. And I guess at that time, I always thought to myself, I cannot achieve those things. What else can I do? So I got heavily involved in elocution, dance, acting, and so many other fun stuff. But at that time, I never participated. When I look back now, I fooled myself at that time, oh, I love elocution, I love this and that. But a huge reason why I was doing all of those things was just to shine or outshine my other peers. And I was comparing myself a lot. Because I knew that girls won't find me attractive if I don't do all of these things. I have to shine somewhere. It wasn't for the love of art. It was more of how I can shine. The comparison really, really took a toll on me in so many different areas. One of the stories that comes to my mind, which just happened 6, 7, 8 years back, when I had just started my undergrad at this beautiful college, DJ Sangani. It's one of the elite engineering colleges in Mumbai. Students, great students who have actually been top performers in different colleges in their 12th, they come over there. I remember I went for this debate competition, not as a contestant, but as an audience. I thought, let me just go over there, just chill and see what's the level of competition over there. There was this guy, his name was Nisar Kamdar, I think, yeah. And I remember listening to him. I don't exactly remember the topic that he was talking about, but the level of clarity, the command over English language, the depth in his knowledge, and the way he was being persuasive about his thoughts. I remember sitting over there, and this voice within me just said, Amit, you would never be able to be like him. You are way, way behind in this competition. These people, they are so damn good. You cannot speak English that well. You struggle with grammar. Do you really think you can compete with these guys? Right now as well, when I'm saying, I can feel my breath changing because... And at that time, this voice really crippled me. Because the result of that conversation, what happened was, I accepted my reality and I said, yeah, that's true. I won't be able to compete with these guys. They are way ahead. The result was the guy who participated, hosted annual days, participated in elocution competitions and so many other fun stuff. I just went silent for 3 years in my undergrad and didn't even participate in a single competition by myself. I struggled in my relationships. I came to the United States back in 2016. At the end of 2016, I went through this breakup with a longtime girlfriend of mine. We both loved each other. The breakup happened because of multiple reasons. One of the biggest reasons was she was very matured in that relationship, and I struggled to understand her because I think I struggled to actually understand my own self. Because we both loved each other, the result was, after the breakup, it was a very dark phase for me where I was really not happy that why did we break up? And the question that was there in my mind was how I could have been a better boyfriend in that relationship. It wasn't that how can I improve in my life. It wasn't that, I should do personal development. No, nothing. It was more of how I could have been a better boyfriend. A lot of times people talk about those key moments, those key questions. This was my key question. And also, because I was alone here in the United States, I got so much alone time to actually think and ponder and wonder, motivate myself. I started listening to a lot of motivational speakers like Les Brown, Tom Bilyeu, Tony Robbins, and they acted as the exposure, the right exposure that I really needed. When I started to listen to them, I thought, whoa, they are talking about how to overcome insecurities. They are talking about how to become a better version of yourself. Why didn't anyone talk to me about these things? Am I in control of my life in so many other aspects? The answers that I am seeking out there, it's actually within me. I remember picking up this book called Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, such a seminal book in my life. It really taught me that, Amit, so many areas of your life, you are struggling because you don't have good habits around them. Don't spend too much time being the victim. You can take control. I got exposed to the idea of personal development, habits, mindset, abundance, growth mindset. Through Tom Bilyeu, I learned the importance of creating my identity around being a learner. Previously, I would always think that, if someone is good at dancing, if someone is good at being a guitarist, because they are naturally talented. And I never went out and actually competed because I always felt defeated before even competing with them. The change didn't happen overnight, but it happened over past 4 years. I started to feel a bit more in control. I started to feel a bit more at peace. I started to understand myself a bit better. And I realized that a lot of my beliefs and my values that are holding me back, I can just untangle them and get free from them. It's not like that today I have achieved nirvana in all state of, or in all aspect of my life. No, it's not like that. I still struggle in a lot of aspects of my life. Sometimes I plan to get up at 6 a.m. and start my work at 9 a.m. and do this and do that. A lot of times I fail. Not every day is a perfect day. I plan to watch just one episode of Money Heist. And then after 5 episodes, I get up with that guilty that shit, I wasted so much time. But it was so much fun. No, I still struggle in a lot of areas of my life. But now I question them. Now the bounce back time is quick. I quickly bounce back if I'm going through a slump. That's the change that's happening now. When I was living unconsciously and now that I'm living more consciously. I realized so many great dreams and passion projects that I had within me that are springing up now. And they are like starting this podcast. Why am I starting this podcast? One of the biggest reason is, I really feel I'm at a very comfortable state in my life. And I am very happy in which direction it's going. And when you're happy, a lot of times you want to spread that happiness because you know the pain, the struggle that you went through. And if I can do just 1% to help anyone out there, any other kid out there, I would really feel honored and blessed that I got that opportunity. When I look around and if I see my close ones struggling, my friends struggling, my family struggling, in few aspects that I am not struggling personally, and that is because of this XYZ reason, I want to actually go out there and talk to them about it and introduce them to these thought leaders or books or something like that. And this broadcasting is I think it's one of the best ways that I can achieve it. The story behind why am I starting this podcast and not a YouTube channel? It goes back to the first disclaimer that I gave, that I'm not an expert. I don't want to pose as something that I'm not. I have done few things in fitness, but I'm not an expert in fitness. I have started to learn few things in personal finance, but I am not an expert in personal finance. But what I am good at is being a curious learner and a sucker for deep conversation. I remember having this beautiful conversation with my friend Rohit Jitwani. People also know him as Junior J2. He asked me in one of our phone conversations that, Amit, what's your purpose of your life? To that I replied, one of my biggest purposes in life is to do something for India's education system and bring back that love for learning, teach concepts like these life concepts to the kids and actually make them feel more empowered. And he told me that, then what are you doing about it? I said, I don't know. I'm thinking of starting a YouTube channel, but these are the XYZ, these are the problems. He was like, why don't you start a podcast? You are good at communication. You love deep conversations. You are good at facilitation. Why don't just start a podcast? And I remember this eureka moment happening inside my head. Oh yes, why don't I just start a podcast and be a facilitator of deep conversations? And that's how this podcast, Wish I Knew That Before, actually came to fruition. So a huge shout out to Junior J2 to actually pushing me to start this. So that was the why of this podcast, with a bit of context from where I'm coming from. Now let's move ahead and actually talk about the vision of this podcast. There are two top visions of this podcast. The first one being going deep into the topics and answering questions which are not taught or discussed too much in our schools, in our colleges, in our workplace, in our family. That really bugs and inhibits the growth of a young adult and just makes them feel a bit helpless and not make them realize their full potential. Having gone out and actually spoken to a lot of young adults and through my life journey, I really feel we all have so many questions about so many different areas of our life that we don't know who to actually go and talk about it. When I mention young adult, the age range official Wikipedia age is somewhere like someone from their late teens to their late 20s. I actually want to stretch that out and actually go into the early teens as well, because I think a lot of questions also take their roots around that time. Now, I personally am very close to my family. I'm close to my mom. I'm close to my sisters. Now I talk to them about a lot of things. I'm not that close to my dad though yet, but I'm getting there with him. But before I wasn't. I kept a lot of things to my own self. I had questions on so many things. Questions about how to be comfortable with my own masculinity. I used to compare a lot, as I mentioned, with other guys and feel less masculine. How to handle rejections. How to overcome the fear of being rejected. I was so fearful of being rejected that until 24 years of my life, I never actually went out and asked a girl. It was always through a friend or the girl would come and talk to me, something like that. But I never did that until just recently. how to overcome breakups. Life doesn't end over there. Why can't my parents understand me? Is math boring or my teacher is making it boring? I think it was my teacher because math is such a beautiful subject. Why are we studying history? I don't want to know why Shah Jahan got killed. I'm kidding, but what I want to say is history is not being taught as it should be. Teach us about governance, teach us about rules of leadership. And now you might have a lot of interest from the students. What is entrepreneurship all about? Mom says it's not for us. We don't have that much capital. Is that so? Is there a age limit to your career, to your dreams? Is life just about one career, or I can actually go out and explore a lot of other things? Why do I feel so lonely? Why is life so hard? And countless other questions around relationship, career, creativity, finances, future, education, and so many other things that I don't think that I personally got a good guidance around them until I actually got exposed to a lot of great thought leaders. My vision is to normalize these conversations in our families, in our workplace, in our friend circle, in our schools, in our colleges. A lot of times, I personally felt that I had these questions and no one else around me was talking about it. So I felt weird to even go and talk about it because I thought it's just me, no one else. But a lot of times now when I talk to my friends, they always say, oh yeah, even we had that question. So I want to make sure that no other young adult end up saying, oh, even I had that question. I didn't know what to do about it. Second vision is to inspire you guys to not just consume content, but to actually internalize it and go and do something about it. You see, there's power in self-reflection. There's power in the lessons that come from within. I have found myself so many times that I listened to a podcast, it didn't hit me at that time. But when I was doing something else, it quickly came to me that, oh, now it makes sense. So there's power in self-realization and actually internalizing these ideas. But I say this now because now I'm doing it more. But when the personal development story started for me, I was just consuming because I thought the answer is just in another video or just another podcast or just another book. And I just went on to consume a lot without actually sitting back with few ideas, internalizing them, actually experimenting with them and discussing it with people, debating it with other people. I read somewhere that an average CEO reads 30 books a year. I thought, yeah, I'll be a CEO. I'll read 30 books a year. I went on to learn speed reading and didn't focus too much on retention. And what happened with me? I got this fake, or I got into the illusion of competence until someone actually questioned me about these concepts that, Amit, I see you have transformed in this way. Can you explain what exactly did you did? And to that I would say, yeah, I did this, but there was always surface level talks, not in depth, because I never internalized those ideas. I never actually questioned them, debated them, modulated it for my own need. I just took the idea, copy pasted it and did something with it without actually letting that self-reflection happen. There's power in self-realization, in self-reflection, internalizing those ideas, pondering about it, going on a walk and thinking about it, experimenting with it, not just consuming passively, but making it your muscle memory. That's what my desire is with this podcast, to inspire you guys, to share my personal stories that, this is what I tried. This is where I got stuck. But I tried to internalize it. I have my unique perspective to this idea. I have my unique story to this idea. So I want it for you guys to actually create your own stories around these concepts so that you can talk with much more depth and not just have that illusion of competence. My vision with this podcast is to make it a melting point of great ideas, great discussions, questions being answered, self reflection happening, and so much more. You see, a lot of times it happens that you don't know that you don't know, and it can really keep you into that victim mode. There's this beautiful quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. He talks about that once a mind stretched with new idea cannot go back to its original dimension. And that is what I want to happen for you guys. And for me personally as well, while we'll be going on this journey together. I really want to expose you guys that this is what's possible out there. Now you decide what you want to do with that. Because I really think exposure is very important. Very, very, very important. If you don't know that you don't know, then you would do nothing about it. Those were the two top vision for this podcast. How are we going to achieve that? By bringing world's top performers, thought leaders, experts, visionaries from different walks of life, going deep into discussing great ideas, answering questions. My special focus would be to actually bring a lot of young adults or young achievers on the show to actually understand that what happened in their life that made them take this path at such a young age. What perspectives do they have? Learn through their stories, their struggles, and also maintain the relatability. Like a lot of times we relate more to peers of our own age. So I want to have that. Lastly, I want to share the values of this podcast, the promise that I want to do to you guys and for my own self. Firstly, I really value integrity and honesty. I'll make sure that I'm being honest in the conversations that I'm having, the things that I'm sharing with you guys. I'll stand strong with the things that I believe in, with an open mindset to learn more from the guests, from the feedback that you guys would give. But I'll be honest and not pose as something that I'm not. Secondly, I'll face fear. I really feel that growth happens outside of your comfort zone. So I'll keep experimenting with the show concept, with my questions, and challenging myself to become a better facilitator of such conversations. Experiment with different topics and see how it goes. So I will face fear. Thirdly, the quality. I'll make sure to my best of my abilities that I bring quality guests on the show, discuss quality topics, and go into quality conversations. Have quality questions, all prepared, well researched. Fourth, execution. I have noticed that I usually get very lazy a lot of times and I procrastinate things. My promise with this podcast, and up till now, from a couple of months that I have been doing this, I promise to myself that I'll execute at least one thing every day to make this podcast a reality. And that's the promise, and that thing I'll always value going ahead in this journey as well. Having fun. Why would I even do this if I'm not having fun? So I'll always make sure that I'm having fun. I'll make sure that I'll keep it fun for you guys as well, because you are the consumers. It should be fun for you guys. I'll make sure that I'm providing information, education, great knowledge with entertainment as well. I'm not really good at it, but I'm working, and slowly and steadily we'll get there, guys. Yeah, and I'll make it entertaining. Promise. Lastly, I'll have a growth mindset. It's great to impact one person's life, but I'll always try and see how can I scale this and reach more people, so that eventually, hoping that they might get inspired and go out and actually have that ripple effect and they do something else for other people, because my life got heavily impacted by so many great digital mentors. I want that to happen for other other young adults that come across this show. So those were the values, my promise that I really would take with me as we proceed in this journey. All right, so that brings us towards the end of our show. This was intro 0, and I hope if you listened but till here, you got some idea that where this podcast is going to go, what all exciting things are going to happen, and what journey are we going to be taking. So I'll be releasing this or different episodes right now based on my schedule because I'm working as well. So based on my schedule, I'll be releasing 2 episodes per month. So keep coming back, keep showering the love, and spread the word that there's a new kid on the block, started his channel. Wish I knew that before. Lastly, I want to leave you guys with this thought that I wrote. Yeah, I take full credit of it. Yeah. That we all are a work in progress. But it's very, very important that the work is in progress. This is Amit Pandey. You were listening to Wish I Knew That Before. See you next time.